survival, we're always looking for water that's moving, a stream or a river. And it's a good thing to find because the rule is that when you find water that's moving like this, you end up following it downstream. The reason for that is that later on, if you follow this downstream, even if it's a little one, it'll work its way into a bigger one and then a bigger one. And the reason why that's good is because people like to be alongside of water. They like to live by it, they like to camp by it, they like to walk by it, And so if you can find water, water will find the easiest way down, and it'll also lead to civilization. So it's a good thing, you'll come across either a fishing camp or a cabin or around a big bend, and all of a sudden there's a Walmart. So water is good. And whenever you find this, you'll end up getting into a bigger river, and finally you'll come to a point to where you could probably make a raft. And a lot of people have done that. You make a raft and you float down because you don't have to expend much energy. And at the same time, people are liable to be alongside of that river. Now, one of the things that happens far too often is people expend the energy to make a raft, and they'll get it in the water, and they'll get on it, and it works, it's floating them down. They'll end up, the first log they run into or the first rock they run into, the raft totally falls apart. And now all that energy they spent, all that time and stuff, it isn't working to get them home. So almost all the time, the reason why the raft fell apart is because they didn't tie the knots correctly. And so one of the things I want to do is actually show you how to tie these knots correctly. I had first-hand experience with seeing proper knots and not proper knots. I worked with a youth group, and if you guys know the Pathfinder group, we have what we call a camporee. We had over 150 clubs that were at this camporee, and we had an event where we had a big open field, and in this open field they all lined up, and they had a scenario that they were to overcome. And the scenario was that there was a gorge, a narrow crevice, and they had wood and they had rope, and what they had to do was build a bridge to cross that crevice, and they had to be done with the wood and only tied together. We didn't have any spikes or screws or anything like that. It had to be all lashing and knots to hold it together. And so the idea was that the bridge had to be two ladder type things hooked together, and they had to have four rungs over this crevasse. And then once the groups got them tied, then what they had to do is take each individual up over their bridge to safety on the other side. And so they were all set, and they had their materials, and they went ahead and sounded the horn, and everybody started building. Pretty soon you look down the line, and you could see some of them that had finally finished, and you could tell the ones that were in a hurry. And the first person across, all of a sudden the thing started falling apart. Second person, some of them actually totally failed after two people across it. And most of the groups had groups of 5 or 7. And it just wasn't any good because the knots were not tied correctly. The group I was with, it was interesting. The group I was with, they went ahead and tied theirs. They had 5 kids, and then 2 of the adults were there. And they got their bridge done, and all 5 kids were across the bridge, and no problem. It didn't fall apart, didn't even get wiggly. Afterwards, they wanted to take a picture, and they came back to their bridge that they had built, and all 5 kids climbed on that bridge, and the 2 adults, to take a picture. And it was all done with just ropes and just wood. And that shows you what can happen if you tie the knots correctly. And so what we want to do here is actually show you how to tie some knots that are very useful, ones you'll run into quite a bit. And then we want to show you lashings. We want to show you how to do that properly. Because a properly lashed will hold together, and it'll do a lot of punishment. It'll take a lot of punishment. If you do a raft and you do it correctly, even though you run into things, if it's done correctly, it'll take a lot of punishment before it finally falls apart. And it should get you out of there. So what we want to do is show that, how to do it correctly. So check these others out. You'll see how we do the knots and how we do the lashing.